Hey everyone, James Reeves. It's my honor to introduce you to Mr. Nathan Merz. This is an honor for me. The best of the best of the best when it comes to Porsche. You're just gonna have to accept that I'm gonna say that at the beginning of every video that we do together. We just did kind of your bargain. If you wanna get into Porsche without making a big mistake, how you can do it for $10,000 to $20,000, which I think was surprising to a lot of people who watched that video. Now let's talk about kind of the next tier, and I don't even know what I'm gonna call this video yet, but we'll figure it out as we go along, like the $20,000 to $30,000, $20,000 to $40,000 range. If I wanna get a Porsche that's kind of a cut above, then what am I going to look at?
Yeah, it's a great topic, and again, I mentioned this in the other video, but I love helping people find their first Porsche. Please don't think, I'm known to sell some really expensive Porsches.
Oh yeah.
I actually love nothing more than the new, hungry, excited enthusiast that wants to learn about it, is all in. That's way more fun. The thing that's killing our hobby is just the average pricing. And so being able to talk, yes, you can buy a wonderful Porsche for $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000. I love that topic, so thanks for bringing it here. It's absolutely fabulous. So much like our other video, if you're in that space, the very first decision you kind of want to make is, do I want to go modern or do I want to go classic? Mm-hmm. And so if you're sort of a cut above, you know, when it goes to classic, the new model you're going to introduce in the world is the 928, which I'll try not to go on too long about this. I will tell you the 928, it's a little bit more controversial in the Porsche world. But this is the very first Porsche that was 100% designed from scratch by Porsche Engineering, with all Porsche parts, and they did a knock-up job with this car. Absolutely fabulous car. I could go on for days. This is my personal 79 928. I love this car. You even rode in it this morning.
Yeah, we took a ride this morning, and I told you, I was like, God, I love the color. I love this car. Why is it controversial?
You know, it's controversial because, number one, us Porsche people think that a Porsche should have the engine in the back. Mm. And I'm an avowed 911 person. Like, that's my first Porsche.
Yeah.
I have way more 911s than any other genre. But, you know, one of the things I firmly believe is that if something is good, it doesn't make something else bad by default. Like, they can be good and different. And so is this a very different Porsche than a 911? Absolutely. Is it any less a good car? No, it's a different car. 928s, they are fairly expensive to maintain. And because they got stuffed with this bad reputation, they really sank low. And again, you can find these on Craigslist, $2,000, and they're horrible, horrible, horrible cars.
It's a terrible decision.
Please don't ever think about buying one of those cars. About the cheapest you're ever going to want to get into a 928, you know, somewhere in the low 20s. Mm-hmm. That's probably going to get you an earlier car, not a 78 or 79. It'll probably get you 81 to 85. Probably has an automatic. But it's still a really, really good car. You're going to pay a little bit more if you want one of the manual, probably add about 10 grand for the same quality of car with a manual.
Hold on a second. So I'm possibly going from like 20 to 30 just based on it being a manual.
Us Porsche people were very snobby. Mm-hmm. Yes. I know your 993 is a Tiptronic. If you tell that out loud, I know. The worst part of the Porsche, I love you Porsche people, but we can be terrible. We shame people for choices. Oh, yeah. We shame them if they pick the wrong Porsche. We shame them if they have the wrong color. We shame them if they say the word wrong. Mm-hmm. It's the most ridiculous part of our culture. So just ignore it. Buy the car that you like. Right. The 920 actually is a really good car as an automatic. It kind of fits the character of the car. I much prefer the manual, but I don't hate on the automatic cars. But again, the big thing on 928s is you want to buy a good one that somebody has always loved. You do not want to try to resurrect one of these from the dead. You will become broke and homeless and divorced in a matter of 48 hours if you do that. So buy a good one that's always been loved. The one thing that's unique with the 928 is the 928, particularly these early cars, they do not have a catastrophic failure. There is not one. The motors in these cars simply do not fail. Like, you just, barring someone doing something so ridiculous, like, you just never see one where it has significant motor failure. These early cars do have a timing belt, but when the timing belt breaks, they're non-interference. Mm-hmm. The later cars
totally destroy the engine.
Yep, the later cars are interference, but these earlier cars that you could probably get in your budget, non-interference motor, and they are super stout, way overbuilt. Even when they're neglected because they're so stout, they'll still run and drive but nothing will work correctly. And so someone will drive one and they'll go, oh, that's not a great driving car. And I said, well, because you drove a tired, clapped out, poorly maintained example.
Right.
And they said, oh, well, it ran and drove. And I go, well, that's not really the litmus test of a good 928. The culture, the most helpful and fun group of people in the Porsche world are 928 owners, hands down. I think because they were kind of the abused people for so long, they stick together, they've got great events, they help each other, they're passionate about sharing their knowledge. And so it's a really nice place to be. There's no snobs in the 928 world.
What is the ceiling for mileage? And I know you're going to say there probably isn't as long as it's well maintained. It sounds like, based on what you said about the engine.
Yes, so it's all about maintenance on these cars. The motors are indestructible. In fact, a very good friend of mine, I'll call her out on here, her name is Laura Dant. She has an 84 928, I think last time I saw her, at 440,000 miles.
No way.
And she and
Oh my God.
her
dude.
partner
Hey,
take
Laura,
that
come on
car.
down. We'll make a video for you.
They take it everywhere. In fact, we know them because we go to these big national events with them, and they have driven to every single national event in this car. It doesn't matter whether it's in Texas or Florida or New York, Washington. They just get in their little 928 and they live in Minnesota and they drive it out. Again, maintenance matters more than the odometer.
Ceiling, not really like a mileage ceiling as long as it's well maintained. Basement, as far as pricing, don't spend less than 20.
Generally not less than 20. If you get below 20, it gets pretty thin pickings, and generally it's just not a place you want to be. Counterpoint, if you want to be able to spend in the 20s, but you want a more modern Porsche experience, this is what's called a 987 Cayman. So the Cayman, I think of it as a fixed roof Boxster. So the first generation Boxster was only a convertible. Then of course, Porsche people, we love our hard tops. And so Porsche came out with this car, fabulous car, also mid-engine. So the engine sits here. This car came out in 2006. And this is a first generation car. This is a 2007. And this is what's just called a Cayman. So these came in a Cayman or a Cayman S. If you're going and you're trying to be on a budget, the car you actually want to buy between these two cars is just the regular Cayman.
Why is that?
So these cars have an engine, a 2.7 liter engine, that does not suffer one of the bigger risk factors on the S cars, which is what's called bore scoring. So these cars aren't prone to bore scoring. And these later cars, the 06 to 08 cars, are not prone to the IMS failure. They can still happen, but the rate is infinitesimally small. So again, if someone says to me, I'm trying to work on a budget, a 987 base Cayman like this car, you can buy one of these, 20 to 25 grand. And it's a really, really, really good car. And it's a late model car. It could be your every and only car.
Let's step back for a second. As somebody who likes scoring and in fact does it frequently, why do I want a car that doesn't score?
Your piston sits within a cylinder wall, and as it's moving up and down, what'll happen is as that piston rocks, various things, it's a wear surface. Well, what happens on the cars that have bore scoring is that the piston actually scores the walls of the cylinder such that over time they start consuming oil and getting noisy. And eventually you're looking at an engine rebuild.
And that's a problem unique to the S for these cars.
Generally. I mean, a 2.7 can do it, but I've actually never seen one. Like in theory, from an engineering standpoint, it's possible. It just, we don't see it. Whereas, unfortunately, the 3.4 liter engines of these cars are one of the more prone to it. Not that you couldn't have a repair on this car, but pretty robust. And again, you could buy one, low 20s, good car.
Is that my basement? Is that my 20? We're talking about the basement here.
About 20. Your other alternative, you could buy a 987 Boxster, so the convertible version of this car. And on those, ideally, you want a base model. And those, because convertibles sell for less than the hardtop version, you might be able to get into the 15, 16 is the basement there. But again, maybe a little bit more, you're going to do better. So Boxster, if you can spend in the low 20s, you'll do a little better. Cayman, mid-20s is probably where you want to be.
Let me stop you for a point of clarity for the viewers out there that just watched our $10,000 to $20,000 video. They said, well, hold on a second, Nathan, you told me that for about $10,000 I could get to a Boxster. So clarify if you would. I know what you meant, but they might not.
Yeah, so the first generation Boxster, Porsche made from 97 to 04, and we call it the 986 Boxster. And that's just to delineate an engineering change. So they introduced a sort of a renovation of the car starting in 2005 called the 987. And to get really technical, there's two generations of those, but 05
Right.
to 08 is the first generation which fit into our budget. But I think your sweet spot, a 987, again, 05 to 08 base model car, I think it's a really good car for 20 or 22 grand.
Okay, and then what are we talking about for mileage ceiling?
Really what you're going to try to do there is you're going to want to be as low as you can get given your budget, because as mileage creeps up on them, generally your maintenance costs and things are coming in. Maintenance history matters most. So again, I'd rather buy one that had 80,000 miles and I know what's been done to it and it's current on everything, versus one that's 40 that maybe someone bought out of an auction and I have no history.
Do we have a ceiling?
Would I want to own one of these cars that had 250,000 miles on it? No, I wouldn't. Could it go 250,000 miles? Likely could if you're willing to invest in it. Would I be willing to drive a 250,000 mile 928? Yes, I would.
Interesting.
Like this car
Really
would still
interesting.
feel 90% as good as it did new at 250 if it was well maintained. These start to feel a little more tired. But that's actually a good juxtaposition to jump over here, because this is a 996. So a 996 is the 911 Porsche debuted in 1999 to replace your car, the 993. And this car really represented a radical shift for Porsche. So the very first completely new 911. In fact, you may or may not know this, they do share one part with the 993. You know what the part they share with the
No
993?
clue.
Share exactly one part.
No clue what
It's
it
the
could
badge
be.
on the hood. That's it.
Oh, come on.
And I'm probably
Come
joking.
on.
They might share something
Yeah.
else. But funny enough, like basically they took the concept of the 911, but everything was new. Whereas every 911 prior to this was just a derivation off the original. So this is a totally clean sheet design, and as transparent as I can be, they simply had to figure out how to make this car less expensively, and thank God they did, otherwise Porsche would not exist.
Right.
So I think they did an amazing job with this car. I think it's a gorgeous car. It wasn't without its controversy. A mixed review. Like from driving dynamics, it got rave reviews. From a styling perspective, it was more mixed, although it was a hugely successful car commercially for Porsche. So the motoring public bought the car in droves.
Sure.
So because they were viewed kind of controversially, when Porsche came out with the next generation, they retrenched a little bit and made it styled a little more
Right.
traditionally. That car's called the 997. That won't fit in our budget.
No.
So if you're going to spend sub $40,000 and you want a 911, really the only car you can pick is a 996.
This is it.
There's not an air-cooled 911 below $40,000 I can feel good about telling someone to buy. So you're going 996. I'll be honest, it took me a while to warm up to this car. Now I personally own two of them. In fact, if we have time over this visit, we'll go for a ride in my car. I think the world of that car. I think it's a fabulous car, and I think this car's aged really well. And much like we talked about, whether it's the 928 or the 944, to the general motoring public, I'm getting so much more attention in these cars than I ever used to. And in a lot of ways, more so than even in my 993. Now, the Porsche faithful much prefer the 993
Oh, yeah.
from a styling standpoint.
Yeah.
But to the general public, I'm here to tell you, I get as much positive attention in my 996 as I do my 993.
Can I get one for $20,000?
You absolutely can, and I will beg you not to buy it. But one of your viewers is going to, and there's going to be a comment below like, oh, that's BS. I bought one for 18 grand. I'm here to tell you, I'm looking at the camera. Yes, you can buy that car. And you might get some random anomaly.
Possible.
But most of the time, that's the car that every town has this street, in Highway 99.
Yeah, 100%.
Where they sell these
Yep.
kind of cars.
Yep.
You just want to run away from them.
Yeah, and they're waxed up, they're polished, they've got wheel black on them, it looks good, and they're really massive pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But this one, my price basement is what?
Around 30 for a coupe. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you're willing to buy a cabriolet, which is a perfectly wonderful car, I'm a coupe person, but if you're open to a cabriolet, you can take $5,000 to $8,000 off that price.
Wow.
So you can actually buy a decent cabriolet, 22 or 23 grand. I
Okay.
think it's a palatable choice. Again, you have to want or be open to a cabriolet, but they're a really good car.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I buy one that's in good shape. 5 years from now, it's going to be in the exact same condition as it is right now. Is that car going to be worth more money? Are these on the come up?
They are on the come up. They've already come up a little bit. They kind of hit the basement. They hit the absolute bottom about 2015 or 2016. Then during COVID, they kind of went nuts like everything did, and they've come down just a little bit. So if we call them 30, give or take $5,000 for your typical driver coupe examples, I think there's still some headroom in there because, again, to the general motoring public, it's a 911. There's a cachet to that. And I'm here to tell you, to drive this car, it's a fabulous car. In fact, we'll go drive this car. It's a fabulous car to drive. They make great noises, they handle well, they've got lots of power. So the biggest thing you'll notice if you drive, for example, my 986 Boxster and then we drive this car, is this car makes 50% more power. And it's noticeable. Although, frankly, that's a lovely car with 200 horsepower, but these are 300 horsepower. So it's and way more torque. So a really enjoyable car to drive. And again, one thing that's nice is the cost to maintain this car is exactly the same as a Boxster. Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Because almost everything's shared.
So it might make more sense, like if I'm not getting fixed on the price of entry, it might make more sense for me to just spend a little bit more, get the 911, 996 instead of say like a first generation Boxster like the 986 over there. Wonderful car. But I'm not going to feel as bad about sinking $4,000 into this for required maintenance versus the car I bought for $12,000 or so.
Exactly.
Mileage ceiling. I'm going to try to hem you up and get a number out of you. Is there a mileage ceiling on these?
There is on these cars. I mean, I do think they have a sort of a service life. And again, not that they won't run, because we'll get someone on here and say, oh, I've got one at 230,000 miles. They're out there. But generally what you'll get to is you'll get your cost to maintain and keep it going gets high enough that most logical people will say, gosh, you know, my cost of ownership is high enough, I could probably rather invest that in more car.
Now, I'm going to pin you down to one, just like we did in the last video. I'm looking at one of these three. Which one am I getting, Nathan?
Honestly, for the average person, 987.
Why is that?
I just think, you know, it's kind of that sweet spot of you can get into the entry for, call it 20 grand, give or take a few grand, whether you go Boxster or Cayman. They're reasonably solid. You know, there's nothing generally catastrophic if you stick to the base model cars. And they're new enough that they're a really easy car, again, to live with in terms of function. I get some people, they'll buy a classic car from me and they'll say, oh gosh, there's no cup holders, or the air conditioning doesn't work very good, or my wife doesn't like it, doesn't have airbags. And I said, well, you bought a classic car. Like that car functions every bit as good as your modern car does. So it's really easy to live with. It's easy to service, parts are available. 928, much harder to find someone who wants to work on it. 996s have a few more failure modes. And again, you're spending 50% more to get it versus this car. So
I can get more car for the money. I'm going to find that it's easier to get work done to it reasonably. So this is a good, sensible pick to get in at that 20 to really 20 to 30.
I think so. And no, it's all BS because I own all these cars. So I'm the wrong guy to ask because I like them all. But so before someone hates on me, but if I was suggesting to a new guy, or I've got a 23-year-old son, if I was going to put him in a Porsche, of all these ones we've talked about, it would be that car.
You guys have no idea how lucky you are to have Nathan Merz on this program. This guy, we are preserving his knowledge. We're going to be here all day filming in his garage. Stay tuned. We're going to bring you more content with Nathan.